Good evening. I'll bring this regular city council meeting to order. If you could please rise for the invocation by Deacon John Dunlop from St. Sebastian Catholic Church.
Good evening. Let us now bow our heads and pray for God's blessing. O God, our Heavenly Father, we come before you and we give you praise and thanksgiving. Thank you for the great jewel of our wonderful city, Sebastian. Send the power of the Holy Spirit to give the wisdom of Solomon on all who are here present. Lord, you are the Alpha and the Omega. You are the beginning and you are the end. Lord, make any decisions made tonight be part and parcel of your holy will. And keep us all safe and bless everyone here, especially those who lead us, because they're so very, very important to us. Thank you for the great gift of all here present. We ask this in the powerful name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, ma'am.
Mayor McPartlin.
Here.
Vice Mayor Coy.
Here.
Councilmember Dodd.
Here.
Councilmember Hill.
Here.
Councilmember Kitchen. Here. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any agenda modifications? Anyone have any brief announcements? No? No? All right, leads us up to our consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, roll call, Ms. Williams.
Vice Mayor Coy.
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd.
Yes.
Councilmember Hill.
Yes.
Councilmember Kitchen. Yes. Mayor McPartlin.
Yes,
Motion carries. Thank you.
thank you. Leads us up to committee reports and appointments. We have an opening on the Parks and Recreation.
Yes, sir. That's an alternate member. Kathleen LaPrenta has withdrawn her application, but I have Nicole Custis and Jay McInnes. I think Jay McInnes is here. Nicole, are you here? She indicated she would be here, but she's not here.
I looked through, and the first applicant I seen, Nicole Custis, seems she has a lot of experience in the Parks and Recreation Department, and, I mean,
I'll move the nomination of Nicole.
Second.
all right. Any further council discussion on that?
I'm good.
Yeah? Okay. So we don't need a roll call on that? Just? Yes. Yes. All right. Thank you, Jeanette. Any other committee reports? No? All right. Public hearings, we have none. Leads us up to unfinished business. Item 10A, approve amendment to fine agreement. Mr. Griffin.
Yes, sir. We have a fine agreement that was signed by council in April of 2015. That is for Phase 2 Alpha at the Working Waterfront. We went through a process of taking this out to bid, and the bids came back in the spring, this past spring, and they were severely over budget. I came back to council on that. Council infused some more money into that project, and it became apparent to me in June and July that we needed an extension on this because the grant was going to expire in September of 2017. One of the letters, or one of the attachments to the agenda transmittal, shows a letter that I sent to Find indicating and requesting an extension, a 6-month extension, and they actually came back and gave us a 1-year extension. So I am asking that this be approved, and I am allowed to execute this contract.
All right, I'll move approval of this item.
I'll second.
Anyone from the public wish to speak on this fine grant? No? Any further council discussion? Roll call, Ms. Weems.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember Hill?
Yes.
Councilmember Kitchen?
Yes.
Mayor McPartlin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Coy?
Yes.
All right,
Motion carries.
thank you. Item 10B, update on fiscal year 2017-2018 budget recommendations. Mr. Griffin.
Yes, sir. Ken Kilgore, our CFO, will be making a presentation to council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We, since we first presented the proposed millage to you back in July, we've actually settled on the group insurance question, and there'll be a presentation later this evening about that. We're still assuming the 3% allocation for employee salary increases. The biggest purpose of my presentation tonight is to kind of brief you on the other funds, the special revenue funds and enterprise funds, just so you are, just to kind of highlight what's included in those accounts. But first, I want to go back to the general fund and show that the personnel cost is the substantial increase as far as spending next year with the allocation that we've got there. It's offset primarily by transfers to other funds. The amount in contingency that we had set aside this past year, if you recall, we had $185,000. We applied it to road improvements, but this year we're not transferring additional funds for road improvements out of the general fund. We're funding them totally out of local option gas tax and DST monies. We also reduced the amount of capital equipment over what is currently budgeted, primarily because we haven't used, or we have used R&R funds. And when we apply the R&R funds, we increase the amount that's budgeted for capital purchases within that particular department or operations, if that's the case. We're still having a budget balanced at the 3.4 mils. That raises $4,099 more ad valorem revenue than we had projected to receive this past year. We're adding 3 full-time positions and 1 part-time position. And we are replacing the reserves totally for the voluntary early retirement program. As I said, we have 3% allocated for the employee pay increases. That's still negotiable. We've been trying to get with the union rep, and there's, I guess, been some delays in scheduling, but I'm hopeful that perhaps later this week or next week we can finally sit at the table and begin negotiations. As I mentioned, we have 10% allocated for the medical insurance. The presentation will show how we think that increase only needs to be 2.3%. We are suggesting from staff that we use, it's about almost $70,000, $69,000 and change of savings on the insurance, and we're recommending that we set that aside, and for market adjustments on pay rates during the year, cases where an employee assumes additional responsibilities, basically reclassification type situations where an employee is deserving. We want to have those monies set aside to be able to apply to whichever department is concerned and adjust their budget to accommodate those kind of pay increases. Even on this, I'd prefer us wait until we talk to the union and negotiate the contract. I think it'll be a positive in their eyes because we talked about this when we signed off on the 3-year agreement last year, that we wanted to, and we have the ability under the contract to make those adjustments, but currently we don't really have any funds available because obviously everybody's budgeted at their current rates, so. This summarizes the position changes in general fund. There's quite a bit of movement around, particularly in public works. The short story is the 3 full-time are the result of adding a community development director, CRA manager, an additional police officer, and 2 stormwater division maintenance workers. That is offset, those 4 positions are offset by the deletion of the city engineer position. The part-timer essentially comes from adding an audiovisual technician, which is a temporary part-time slot. Just summarizing operating costs, we actually reduced those by $6,672 over last year's budget. The reduction in capital purchases is partly because we look at capital items that were requested and say, well, you know, if it does break down or it does need repair, we'll take that out of the R&R account and cover it that way, as opposed to have everybody budgeting what they think might break. We also do everything we can to move capital cost into the DST, or Recreation Impact Fee account. So it shifts it out of the general fund that's supported by ad valorem and other tax revenues. The transfers down, I mentioned that we are not transferring any monies to street repaving out of the general fund account this coming year. And also the Indian River Lagoon account has got about $240,000 is just sitting. We've allocated $100,000 over the past 3 years. We've only spent it for the membership and the Lagoon Coalition, and some work on oyster mats, or matching funds for oyster mat grants. So I said I want to speak towards the other funds, the enterprise funds, the golf course. We expect the capital improvements we've been making and the upgrades we expect to make at the restaurant to enable us to generate more revenue next year. We do need to cover an additional $6,000 payable to the airport, and that, if you recall, the maintenance building that we constructed out there for the maintenance folks, that requires us to adjust the amount that's being rented by the golf course from the airport. We will be able to pay back amortization of the loans that we made from the building fund to the golf course. We'll pay the principal and interest on an amortized basis. I believe we used 20 years and a 1.3% interest rate cost. As you probably recall, back on June 28th, we approved a capital lease for the golf carts. So we'll be paying off the loan that was previously made from Seacoast Bank and instead using the capital lease type financing. For the airport, we're expecting Hangar C to increase our revenues from rentals. We do have $10,000 allocated out of airport funds next year for economic development advertising, and we've allocated $10,000 for entrance signage work, and they're able to pay $25,000 towards the, if you recall, about 10 years ago, I guess, it was a $200,000 loan from general fund to the airport to cover some legal fees. With what we've been chipping away at that balance over the last 3 years leaves us with a balance, I think, after this $25,000 of only $85,000 of the $200 remaining. So that also helped.
Say that again, how much remains? How much
sorry?
remains?
I believe it's $85,000 after this 25.
After the 25?
Yeah, we had a couple of years where we paid I think we paid 50,000 the first year, 25 the second, and this year we only paid 10, but now we're expecting to pay 25,000 next year.
Thank you.
The building fund is not doing quite as well as last year on revenues in the current period, and we are reducing our projections for next year. The economy, you know, we've had a big buildup, I guess, of pending permits or people waiting to get permits, but we seem to be beyond that, and now it's kind of leveling out. It's still a good level. It's beyond what we were getting 2 to 3 years ago. So this is the amount the golf course would be repaying to the building fund on the loans for the irrigation system improvements primarily. The local option gas tax, we've got $451,000 allocated to next year for repaving Indian River Drive. The year after that, we are looking at paving Pleasant View, Rolling Hills, and Schumann for $320. The following years, we've got $250,000 we feel would be affordable out of local option gas taxes for additional street work in those years. We look at that on an annual basis as far as conditions of streets and modify our plans accordingly. The parking in lieu of fund, with the final payment of any pending agreements this coming year of only $13,775, we haven't allocated any spending out of next year, so by the end of next year we'll have $71,442 available in that account for additional parking purposes. The discretionary sales tax, or DST as we refer to it, continues to cover computer upgrades, police vehicles. We have the pickleball courts spread out over a 2-year period, 4 courts in next year and another 4 in the following year. We're doing the shoreline work at the working waterfront is scheduled for 2019. You may recall that we already allocated monies to this phase 3 of the working waterfront in the past year budget, but we're going to let that project expire and then just show it in the capital program as a future cost. We've got the storm crop drainage scheduled for 2018, some radio system upgrades in the police department. We've got monies allocated for design work this coming year for the Public Works compound, and the funding, an estimate of the funding in the following 2 years. We're buying stormwater heavy equipment out of the DST fund. That is an eligible expenditure as long as it's got a high value and long useful life. DST is providing the funding that we need to match the airport projects. And we also are scheduling next year the irrigation at the cemetery to be rejuvenated or renewed. With the CRA fund, we're doing the working waterfront repairs as needed, basically, to that structure. We're funding special events, the sign grant program, and the septic to sewer connection program. So this year we've got $230,000 allocated to this septic to sewer program. We're suggesting that we also use monies that are earmarked for the lagoon, which is about $240,000 towards the septic to sewer program as needed, or if needed, or if some other useful project doesn't come along before those grants are being considered. So we're updating the CRA master plan, and next year we're funding $10,000 a year over the next 5 to 6 years to do something to make sure the trees at Riverview Park are renewed and are going to continue. It may be contractual work to trim, keep them trimmed. It may be replantings, but we did want to have some allocation there to start addressing that contingency that those trees may not live forever. We also have in 2018 funding for wayfinding signage, and in the following 2 years, monies for the street signs to get them all uniformed and contribute to the ambiance and the good of the CRA area. Recreation impact fees, we're funding the Barber Street ball field lighting next year, as well as an ADA playground. Stormwater utilities, we've got normal kind of maintenance items for stormwater, the stormwater system, and we're also increasing the transfer to general fund, which is part of the reason we were able to balance the budget. We are using a ratio of 75% of those costs we have in general fund to be reimbursed from stormwater fee revenues. Law enforcement forfeiture fund, we don't really budget those items because the state says it's supposed to be used only for things that you can't budget. So we just handle those during the year as items are identified as being needed by the police department. Cemetery Trust Fund, we are doing a headstone straightening project in 2018, but we're also going to be coming back at a future council meeting with a recommendation to change how the Cemetery Trust Fund is split, and some of the monies can never be used. You can only use the interest on those monies. The other half of the monies can only be used to add to the capacity or the lots that can be sold at the cemetery. So we think that should be rearranged such that if we've got just a maintenance kind of cost, that we can go ahead and take care of it out of those monies. There's over $1 million set aside in that account currently, but we will be presenting more details and a firmer recommendation at a future meeting. All our debt service obligations are provided for. We did pay off the discretionary sales tax debt this year. So this building and the police station are now free of any debt. I did want to mention, we are still paying on a paving note that was done years ago. Currently, we try to fund paving as we go and not incur debt just for resurfacing type projects. Just a reminder basically that we've got the first hearing on the millage and budget scheduled for Monday, September 18th. That would be a special meeting necessary because of the timing of the trim regulations requires us to have a certain number of days between the first hearing and the final hearing. We can handle the final hearing on September 27th at a regular meeting. I'd be glad to take any questions or respond if you have concerns.
Great update, Ken. Thank you for everything you do.
I have a question. Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can you just go back to the paving note and say that over again on the last slide? Paving note where it says, included in local option gas tax fund, $1,263,000 outstanding. Just explain to me what that means again.
I'm sorry?
Explain to me what that means.
The paving note was issued, I think, and amortized over 30 years. This handled paving work back years ago, just resurfacing type projects.
And that's what we owe on that.
So
That's the balance due. Okay.
That's the remainder, yes.
Final maturity in the 22. Okay. Does that note have to be paid out of any particular fund? Does it have to come out of the local option gas tax fund?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Dodd?
No, I don't have any. I just, one thing, on the fund that you're talking about setting up for recognition for employees, I think that's a fine idea. I would like to see some type of procedure, process, something about how you intend to manage that as we during the budget process on that.
What I'd like to do is move forward with a concept with our HR manager and bring that back either next meeting or the first meeting in September, just as a recommendation to a policy that we would have in dealing with that. One of the things that I want to make sure that we don't get into something where this isn't perceived as some sort of preferential treatment of folks, but for outstanding contributions or above and beyond or consistent contributions to the workforce and things like that. So there would be some documentation, there would be recommendations. It just wouldn't be one person saying that they would get this kind of bonus or something like that. So it would be, I think it would be reasoned out with the HR manager and with Ken and myself, and we'll bring that back at a future date.
I think it's like I said, I think it's a fine idea to do something like that. It's just a matter of getting some information on how it would operate before we approve the budget.
All right, that's it. Any other comments?
But actually, my comment was the exact question that Mr. God had, and if we're going to consider going forward with something like that, it, I believe, needs to be a part of the negotiating process, because all the benefits and salaries are negotiated with the bargaining unit. So I think that if we're going to negotiate in whatever the percentage is, the raise increase, and then, you know, whatever many holidays or whatever, and those are all part of the negotiating process.
Actually, this year, only the paragraph concerning the wage increase is up for negotiation. That's the only thing that's open.
So then we need to have more discussion as a council on how we want to go forward with that. So if we're going to potentially offer that, then it would be beneficial for the union to recognize that that may be something that's being offered to them. So again, you're just discussing the wages, and thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. But this is potentially something that during that negotiation can be utilized as a potential additional benefit that we provided for them. And then I think that the way in which this $70,000 is dealt out is a very important process, because we certainly don't want to see $70,000 where someone can just be like, oh, that was great, here's a $5, or here's a couple $1,000 for kicking it at the clam bake. And I'm not saying that would happen, but
There should be a percentage.
But when you put monies aside for certain things, then it happens. Now, we used to, and I don't know if we're still doing it, but they were recognized as employees of the quarters and employees of the years. And there were checks that came along with those awards, and that hasn't been done for years now. I don't know where that went, but that could be a part of the process as well. So, I mean, I don't want to give $70,000 out to an employee of the quarter, but we used to do employees of quarter, year, and there were dollar figures that went along with that. This could also potentially, you know, and I guess when we get into the budgeting process, we could talk about different line items. But I just was concerned about this one specifically because it's one of those found money things, and we can use it for this. Not a bad idea, but let's just make sure we use it the right way.
I've got one other thing, unless, Linda, do you have something you?
No, I agree with Mr. Hill. We have to be very careful on how that's administered. I know they get annual evaluations every year, each employee, and they need to make sure that those evaluations reflect that you're gonna give them this increase.
I have just one other question. We do a really good job of spelling out the roads that we intend, you know, we see Fleming and all of that. Have we assessed all the streets in town?
Yes.
Okay, so if I came down and said, when is Orange Avenue due for repaving? We can answer that question?
We had an assessment done last year. We did not do an assessment this year. Usually that assessment was done in February or March. That was not done this year. We still have the chart from last year, which, I believe I sent that chart to Planning and Zoning, or no, the, Budget Committee.
Budget Committee.
Budget
yes.
Committee had a copy of that chart. And the streets were graded, good, fair, or poor, depending, and I plan on doing another assessment in the winter, probably January, February, sometime in there. I will farm that out to one of our engineering consultants and get that done.
How do we
But if I could
account for
interrupt
like
a sec.
everyday street? I mean, because I'm looking at kind of major streets here I've seen. So like Orange Avenue or Hibiscus. Hibiscus is full of potholes and damage. Palm Avenue, that's totally destroyed because water had sat at the end of it. How do we assess those into the program? Because it's a matter, you can't just do a piece of Hibiscus. You have to do the whole thing.
One of the strategies in trying to take care of some of the streets that weren't fully impacted, I'll give you Vaucelle, for example. We had to do Vaucelle from the west side of Vaucelle all the way over to Roseland. That street had to be totally reconstructed virtually. But if council remembers, about this time last year, we purchased a $140,000 patch truck, which is a professional way of repairing these potholes. Before that, our problem was we would put cold patch on it, first rain, cars would go over it, it would be destroyed. So council made this investment. We have been using this truck. I try to have that thing deployed at least once a week. The issue has been here lately, which is really strange. It's hard to get the hot asphalt because of the 512 project and because at night they're doing the I-95 project. So I'm diverting a little bit, but those are a little bit of the things that we're faced with. To get back to what your point, Vice Mayor Coy, we were caught up on these roads per our city engineer this year. We were caught up. There are pockets, I agree, but we were pretty much caught up with the exception of Indian River Drive. Indian River Drive, and that's on our list. Come October 1st, we want to get that thing going. We're going to have to do that dance of when to do that because we have festivals, we have Christmas parades, we have other things going on. So we're really going to have to watch when we schedule that. But we were pretty much caught up. Now, if council thinks that I should go out and get an assessment right now, I can get that going tomorrow morning. But the last report I had is that our streets were in fairly good condition except for some pockets that we were going to be able to repair with our new $140,000 patch truck. That's been our strategy.
All right, well, I'm not prepared to make that. I'll have a chat with you and maybe we can go for a ride. And at the next council meeting, we can talk.
Maybe you should take that ride in Philadelphia or a city that has actual bad streets. So I know I understand that there are concerns in certain areas, but
Oh, so
but from an overall, the condition of our streets, and if you go to his office and look at the assessment, he has it. He has the A's and B's and the C's and the D's and the whole list of them that we just did a year ago. That's here. We have that. And if someone has potholes, we have a machine that can fix those potholes. And so if they're not pleased with the process of calling in and saying, I have a pothole in my road, then they can get with the city manager.
I'm not talking about potholes. I know we have that machine. I'm not talking potholes. I'm talking about roads that have been undermined by standing water that aren't on the assessment. So, but we'll go for a ride, and I'll bring it back.
it's interesting that you bring it up, because I had a conversation with the city manager, I think, today about it.
Did you?
I think that during the budget process, we're gonna have ample opportunity to look at what's left in some of these funds. We get a balance on the funds as a result of the 17-18 budget process, as well as the previous projects. There appears to be possibly some money out there, and I think we do need to do an engineering assessment of not the primary streets, because I agree 100%. The primary streets are all in really good shape. They've done a lot of work on those, but I'm talking about the neighborhood streets.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to hire an engineering firm and do an assessment on the neighborhood streets and kind of categorize those, because lots of times neighborhood streets are surfaced, are handled based on the loudest voice that comes across.
Thank you very much.
And so it might be appropriate to get somebody to do that. And I think we'll have an opportunity during the budget process to talk about if there's funds available in like in the existing discretionary sales tax fund. If there's funds available there, then I think we could hire someone to do that assessment that you talked about, and then put together a plan that you might be able to answer the question about what's going to happen over the next 3 years or 4 years as far as fixing these secondary streets that are a problem. But I think we need to do that within the budget, confines of the budget, so we don't spend money that we don't have on something.
Right.
and
I
that
also
we
think
do it
we need to
without
go,
impacting this budget. These guys have worked really, really hard on putting this budget together, and I appreciate all the work. I've asked some questions of the city manager and of Ken that I know caused extra work, and I really appreciate the work that they've done in putting this thing together for us. I think they've done a really good job, and I don't want to mess that good job up at all, so.
we also need to go back to a full-scale drainage project to stop the water from going on the roads with our armadillo, if that's what you're gonna use. Go back to the map that we had for the quarter round and pick up where we left off and use the armadillo.
We're doing that. There is armadillo work ongoing out there, probably not as fast as it should be. I think right now, because of maintenance, we're down to one machine. That is ongoing. Councilmember Kinchin's correct. The problem is the drainage to a large degree. If the drainage doesn't work, the streets are impacted, and it undermines the roads, and that it's a
And
vicious
there
cycle.
are lots of roads that are
And,
tore up.
Will the drainage ever be fixed to 100%? Absolutely not. But we continue to work at it, and also it's a paradox, because you have, where are you going to spend the money? If you end up letting the drainage go, it impacts the streets. You end up spending more money fixing the streets than it probably would have cost in getting the drainage repaired. So the emphasis obviously should be on the drainage to keep the water off the streets. It's an ongoing problem, and I think our maintenance, they work hard at it, but it's.
Well, I'm not saying we didn't do a bad job. Don't anybody get me wrong. We do a great job with what we have, but I agree with Councilmember Dodd. There might be some extra funds out there that could be directed towards current problems and issues, not made up, pulled out of space, but real-time issues.
I'll be happy to go forward with another evaluation. I mean, it's not gonna cost that much. If I can see 5 head nods, I mean, I'll 5 affirmative head nods, then I'll get that going tomorrow morning. And,
No, let's get that update done after storm season. That would be, like you talked about, January would be the best time to really get it done.
And part of
Let's
the
see.
budget process, as
Right.
Mr.
Yeah,
Dodd
and I'd
said.
like to go through the budget process about the funds. If you spend money now to do something, it's just gonna impact your budget process more than anything else, I think. I know you've got funds out there you can use, but I'd kinda like to go through that and see how much money you think it would take to do a full-blown assessment. I just prefer that we do a good planning job before we execute, rather than execute and then think about what's happened to us on the planning side, so.
We did,
Yeah.
Councilmember Dodd, we did this for a number of years, for a couple of years, about 4 years, of getting this assessment done, and then we chipped away at the most severe first, and then worked our way through that list of streets.
And I think
Right
that's
now, I
almost
did not-
done.
I'm sorry.
I interrupted you, I'm sorry, Dad, but
No, I
I
was
think
gonna
you've pretty
say-
much done that.
Well, I think so. I think, frankly, I think we've done a fairly good job, probably a B+ in getting those things accomplished. Could have been better, I'm sure, but we did pretty good.
Yeah, I
And-
agree with that.
And we're down, we've knocked that list down, and to where we now really have 2 that are impacted, that are on the budget in this next budget year to take care of. There's gonna be things that come up all the time that are going to, we get a heavy storm, and all of a sudden a street washes out. So we'll have to take care of that we didn't foresee. But I'll be glad to take the ride with you, Councilmember Coy.
Let's take a
Take
ride,
a
and I
look.
think, we did that on crisis management for good reason, because after Tropical Storm Faye, that's when we started. And we did it in crisis management, because we had flooding areas and homes were in danger. Though we didn't lose any homes or have any homes flooded, it was starting to impact neighborhoods. We did the worst. But what about the rest of the streets who were getting there? Where are we with those? We'll go for a ride. I think it might be good to plan out the whole city, because the city can't, we know a road only lasts so long. So we should know that next year, we need to do blah, 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 and budget the money every year for X number of miles over time, and keep that within the budget cycle. Thank you.
I would have to say, and I'll leave it at this, but I have to say I agree 100% with what you said, and we've been doing that. And that's the process he's been talking about. We've been doing the assessments every year and then taking away at it. So it's just this year we didn't do the assessment for some reason, but
Yeah, okay.
but during the process of the budget, we can make sure that it's done next year.
Maybe that's why I asked. It's because I asked, what about these other streets? Got the answer, we didn't do it this year. We'll do it next year, for sure. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Kilgore? Thank you very much, Ken. Anyone from the public want to speak on that update on the budget? All right, leads us up to public input. This is the time anyone from the public wish to speak on something not already on the agenda? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Ben Hawker, City of Sebastian.
Good evening.
We passed the marijuana law. It was to be medication in pill form, non-smokable. And watching all of we made a decision for Sebastian to have locales for the dispensaries. And everything you see on TV, when they define a dispensary, is showing the marijuana bud in different forms. And I believe Indian River County has only issued 1 permit for a dispensary. Vero Beach has banned it completely. It's either in a pharmaceutical, like Walmart, or any place that does normal prescriptions. So it seems like we're like the only one with another spot in Indian River County to attract people coming into a dispensary, whereas a doctor can be sitting there and looking on the TV, you're seeing pictures of weed in containers being sold. We were informed here at the council there'd be no smokable marijuana in the ordinance. Well, I don't know what the TVs are doing, but we might want to reconsider or look what the county's doing and what Vero's doing and alter ours. Next, we're talking about roads. I found a couple more golf cart speed bumps that showed up, I don't know when, on Rosebush or Rose Arbor. In a residential area, 2 speed bumps on a non-really trafficked road. I don't know how these pop up. I was told when they first put the speed bumps on Indian River Drive, they were there for a test to see if it did anything. Well, if somebody really looks at it, It's not doing a hell of a lot, other than small cars that have to slow down. Trucks go by, motorcycles go by, it's not really slowing the traffic. Then we've got, I believe, an ordinance in the city, 30-mile-an-hour speed limit on any residential road. Now I'm seeing electronic signs popping up all over the place that says, this is the speed limit and this is what you're doing, on a solar-powered sign. What are we doing? I don't see a reason to reiterate, spend money on electronic signs when we've got a 30-mile-an-hour ordinance on every street, and some streets slower. Just a few comments, that's all.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, there won't be any smokables in the marijuana dispensaries that come in the city. They have to follow strict state guidelines and get licensed through the Department of Health and the state. So the pictures on the buds, that's not happening in Sebastian, at least not in any dispensary that would open up.
Can I add a comment to that? Because I
Yes.
just got done reading a lot of the state ordinance that's in place, and I've been reading some articles locally here on what's going on. The statement that this goes in a pharmacy is incorrect. The state has mandated in law that the zoning for pharmacies will be anywhere a pharmacy can be located. You either allow them anywhere a pharmacy can be, which is a commercial area, or you don't allow them at all. It's not going to be connected to a pharmacy that you go in and you have a pharmacist. And oh, by the way, there is only one company, I believe, in the state that's been licensed to do this. So there's only one company. The city of Sebastian did, we have to tweak our ordinance a little bit. I spoke, and we do need to get this on our agenda. I thought we were good to go. There's just a couple of little tweaks that need to be added to make us compliant with state law. I don't anticipate us changing, but to be compliant, we just have to add, like the school, 500 feet from a school, yada, yada, yada. Very small changes. The city of Sebastian right now is the only city that has approved with the state's functions. Now, does that mean we're going to get one? No, somebody has to. The licensed suppliers have to want to come here. We have no control over that. And right now, there is only one. The city of Vero Beach has banned it, but they have one that was grandfathered in, one location, and that's working. That's in place, and that's coming soon to Vero Beach. There'll be one location there. There might be a one location here. Looks like the county, if they haven't already done it, is going to say, no, we don't want any dispensaries. That is where we're at with medical marijuana. And, you know, if we get one here, okay. If we don't, this is now up to the people who are licensed to bring it in. We did our job up here. We just have to tweak it a little. Thank you.
All right, medical marijuana, not recreational use. As far as this speed bumps that are going up, I noticed some in my neighborhood, but I know my neighborhood was identified for high-speed traffic because we had a couple of traffic studies done. So the location he's talking about, I'm sure Mr. Griffin, that was identified as one of the problem areas when the traffic studies were done.
When we had a traffic engineer on staff, there was a traffic study done, and the result of that traffic study was that the speed humps, should be installed. And they were ordered and they were installed. I'm not sure when they were installed, but
Just in the last
it was a
couple of
result
weeks.
of, it was a result of a traffic study. We don't do anything without a good reason,
And they
contrary to
created,
what Mr. Hawker says.
they created a few new four-way stop signs.
That's correct.
You know, I noticed on Benedictine, I seen others in the town, and they put the flags up so people know that they're happening. And as far as the solar-powered advising you of your speed, I think that's one of the safety things that's come through the transportation, making people available, because you're not supposed to text and drive or be talking on your phone and driving, but people do that, but when they forget how fast they're going, so when the light comes up and says you're going this fast, it's just raising more awareness, hopefully preventing a fatality. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on anything not already on the agenda? All right, brings us up to new business. We have a presentation by the Garing Group. Mr. Griffin.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Dustin Kuhn. He's the representative from Garing Group. Garing Group is our city health insurance consultants. So Dustin, thank you very much for being here. Take it away.
Do we have the presentation on here? Yeah, there you go. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. Dustin Keene, Senior Benefit Consultant with the Garing Group. We are the broker for the city's employer benefits package. Today I'll go over the request for proposal process and the renewal process that we recently conducted in conjunction with the city staff. So items for discussion, quickly we'll go over a brief recap history of the city's program over the past few years, go over the renewal and the request for proposal process, what we were able to find through that process, as well as a recommendation of renewal. So just a quick recap here of 2014 to 2017. As you'll see in 2014-15, we did make a carrier change from Florida Blue to United Healthcare. Reason being is Florida Blue came in with a very high renewal rate, so we did a similar RFP process and were able to secure a savings with United Healthcare for a similar plan design. We also moved the dental and the vision as well, keeping life, disability, and EAP the same. In 2015-2016 plan year, we were able to negotiate with the current incumbents on all lines. So you'll see for dental, vision, life, long-term disability, and EAP, there were no change to benefits or rates. Medical, we did get a fairly high renewal. However, we were able to increase the deductible on the city's plan in order to generate some savings. And then the city offsetted that increase by increasing the contributions to the health reimbursement account. 2016 and 17, we made no medical change to carrier. We stuck with United Healthcare as the renewal was fair and just. There was a plan design change as we introduced coinsurance, and again, that was to drive down the premium cost, and then the city offsetted that by increasing the funding towards the health risk assessment. United Healthcare was also moved to Humana for dental and vision for substantial savings with a similar plan design. So July 5th, 2017, we received the city's renewals. Medical came in very, very high at a 25%. United Healthcare's reasoning for that high increase was due to a high loss ratio. Loss ratio is your claims experience to premium ratio. For the rolling 12 months, it was about 92%. And in March 2017, it spiked to 392%. So that means for every dollar given to United Healthcare, they spent $3.92 on claims and costs. There were 3 large claimants, equating to about $340,000 combined between the 3. We were able to negotiate as best we could. We got them down to a 22%, so about a 2% or a 3% reduction in premium. Life came in at a no increase, as well as long-term disability. EAP was a rather small, it's pretty in line with the market at a 4.5% increase over the next 2 years. All of the lines are in rate guarantee until 2018. So after reviewing with city staff, as Ken mentioned before, the city allocated 10% for medical, 25% or the 22% was rather high. So with the city's direction, we released a request for proposal for medical, life, long-term disability, EAP, to determine if we can get a better offer elsewhere in the market. So July 7th, we released the RFP. July 24th, proposals were due. 5 medical carriers responded. 5 life and LTD carriers responded, and 5 employee assistance program carriers responded. United Healthcare, again, we went over that. Cigna came in at about a 13% increase. Florida Blue came in at a 2.3% increase. FMIT, or the Florida Municipal Insurance Trust, came in at a 13% increase, and Health First, which is your local hospital system, came in at a 7% increase. Life and LTD, everybody was above your incumbent Hartford except for Lincoln and the Employee Assistance Program. You had some reductions, some around the same rate, and some high. It was up and down across the board. So after reviewing this proposal process and evaluations with city staff, finalists were Florida Blue. You'll see here that the deductible under Florida Blue is lower than the city's current plan or United Healthcare. However, the out-of-pocket maximum is increased to $4,500 and $9,000 for the family. After looking into your current utilization under your plan, only 2 people reached the $4,000 out-of-pocket maximum in 2016. So the $4,500 increase in the out-of-pocket maximum would relate to a rather small disruption as far as the out-of-pocket goes. This plan is also the same plan that the city had in place 3 years ago. Same deductible, same out-of-pocket, same coinsurance, same network of providers. Life and LTD, Lincoln Financial Services, they came in at a very aggressive rate. Through best and final negotiations, we were able to increase the current life insurance benefit under your basic life from $10,000 an employee to $15,000, so an extra $5,000 in life insurance. Hartford came in at about a 0.5% decrease between life and long-term disability, and Lincoln came in at an overall 19% decrease to the current rates with a 36-month rate guarantee. Lastly, Employee Assistance Program. Aetna Resources for Living is your current carrier. They came in at a 4.5% increase over the next few years. Lincoln Financial, they partner with a company called CompPsych, and they came in at a 34% decrease at a 36-month rate guarantee with a comparable plan as your current plan. So medical recommendation, as I mentioned before, you had 5 different carriers. After vetting out the pros and cons of each, we are recommending that the city move forward with the Florida Blue Options Plan 05190, 05191, same plan that the city had a few years ago. The reason being is, 1, there's minimal disruption in network. 19 physicians fall out of your current network, however, 3 fall in. Employee familiarity with carrier and plan design. So you've had this plan before, they're familiar with the network and how the plan works. 2.3% increase to the total premium, so very, very aggressive increase to your current rates versus the 22% increase United Healthcare was proposing. So that's over about a $200,000 savings from that renewal. As well as a lower deductible, so you'll help employees out with a lower deductible, and minimum impact with a higher out-of-pocket with only 2 hitting that. Health First, just to briefly go over them, they came in very aggressive as well at a 7%. However, when looking at the physician disruption, they had a lot of physicians fall out of the network, as well as the hospitals fell out of your network. So a lot of your current employees utilizing providers would have to find new primary care physicians in hospitals. Life, long-term disability, and EAP, it's being recommended that the city move forward with Lincoln Financial Group for both life, long-term disability, and EAP as a bundled savings. Under the life insurance, this would be an 18.2% reduction in premium, an increase to the death benefit given to employees at a 36-month rate guarantee. Long-term disability at a 19% reduction, no change to the benefit design at a 36-month rate guarantee. An employee assistance program with CompPsych, partnered with Lincoln Financial Group, at a 34% reduction in premium at a 36-month rate guarantee. So now I'll open up to any questions.
Council, any questions for Dustin?
I think that we've got a long history with Gary Group here at the City of Sebastian. I think the work that was done to provide us with the savings that we were provided with this year is indicative of the type of service we've received over the years, and and it's just This is exactly why we have someone out there doing this shopping for us, a $200,000 savings in simply renewing. So I appreciate the hard work that you guys do, and I think that this is exactly why you're here.
Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you.
I don't know if you need a motion, but I move that we approve the recommended options. Do you need that?
I don't think there has to be a motion, but we are going to incorporate this into our budget, our final budget, and there'll be open enrollment for employees on August 30th, and obviously for retirees also, who qualify. So, as I say, we'll be incorporating this into our final budget presentation.
We don't need a motion to determine what plan? And I got a couple questions. I think we do need a motion.
Yeah, I think you need a motion. I think you need to vote on this matter.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I think council needs to vote on this matter.
Thank you, okay. But I'll second, but, for discussion, because I really want to ask Linda Kinchin some questions here.
Okay.
Someone
Do
who...
you have questions for Dustin, or can Dustin sit down right now?
You might, don't go far.
I won't go far. I'll sit right
Just
here.
give you a little break.
No
Yeah,
problem. And I
don't go
just
very-
wanted to end with, it's been an absolute pleasure working with the city staff, Ken, Cindy, and Joe. They're amazing to work with, so I just wanted to end on that.
All right.
And
Thank
you do, I'm going to echo Councilmember Hill's stuff. Garing Group has performed marvelously and worked really, really well with us. I just have a few concerns. Go ahead, you
All right.
sit down. We're going to be
Is there
friendly here.
anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this matter? All right. Well, I think, again, the Garing Group has done a great job over the years, and I guess Treasure Coast Community Health had their event here in City Hall. They just opened a new office. They're one of the federally funded clinics. And so when the employees are changing over to the health, if they find they're not getting their questions answered, or they have concerns about plans and stuff, you can go to Treasure Coast Community Health, and they have what's called free health navigators to help people get through and make sure you're getting the best care that you can. As well as Treasure Coast, they provide dental, behavioral, and medical for people who have insurance, people who don't have insurance, people who are on Medicaid. So that's one. My only thought was, is there a way, because the costs were rising because we had a couple of high claims. It's the same instance we had a few years ago. Unfortunately, we had some people who they needed the help, and they caused these large bills. And we are such a small pool. Is there a way in which that we could partner with another city to make the pool larger?
I asked, in our discussion with us, Dustin, Ken, and Cindy, and Mark was here also, that same question. One of the things, one of the points that Dustin made was that Indian River County has blue options, isn't that correct? So, in effect, I think when they saw our application, they were able to say our pool will be larger, and with the city of Sebastian. So Dustin calls that aggressive. Their costs were aggressive, and I think, or the proposal was aggressive. So I think that's part of it. It would be nice if there was all municipalities could get together, certainly in Indian River County, but maybe throughout the state, or who knows.
And have it
Council-
negotiated by Florida League of Cities, and, to do, have they ever talked about that?
Yeah, so you were right on it. So Florida Municipal Insurance Trust, as you know, is a pool. It's a self-funded pool of government entities in the state of Florida. So in effect, that is kind of what you are referring to as a consortium. In the past, we've seen some consortiums, come up but fall quickly, and the reason being is the entities that are doing well, have good claims experience, want to break away because the rest of the group is holding, them down. So we're not saying it's impossible. We're saying politically, sometimes it's very difficult to keep them going. That's why we go out to Florida Municipal Insurance Trust, who Garing Group is the exclusive broker for. In this instance, we were hoping they would come in very aggressive since they use United Healthcare as their network of providers. Unfortunately, they came in at a 13% increase, so it didn't really work out in this respect.
All right, thank you.
Maybe that's an issue that should be raised under a legislative issue for Florida League of Cities that we should bring forward because there's just no doubt, if you increase the pool, when we have a bad year,
Right.
you know, it's going to be offset throughout the state of Florida. If it was something, I think we should pursue this.
Great idea.
Well, I will say that they are very selective in groups that they allow into the pool. They do use United Healthcare as their network, right? We know that Florida Blue, as Joe mentioned, has the school district, has the county. So they have a lot of leverage with providers in the area. Therefore, they're able to drive down their negotiated costs between Florida Blue and the provider. Because claims make up about 75 to 80% of the entire pool, your entire program cost, those deeper discounts is why they're able to come in so aggressive. Where Florida Municipal Insurance Trust, using the negotiated prices between United Healthcare and your providers, they're not able to get that deep of a discount. Therefore, they're not able to come in as aggressive as Florida Blue. So that was the reason why they came in a little bit higher.
Okay, but back to, now I want to ask Linda some questions, because here's my concern. 2 years ago, we switched from that network to save money because of the same problem. Now, then we go for 2 years. Sometimes it's not always about money. I'm really thinking about the people involved here and having to change and be, you know, that my physician is on this list and I got to change again. I got to go back. And we're upping the deductible. I'm very concerned about that. I know we're saving the city money, and you did a great job finding this. But who pays the price? Not the budget of the city of Sebastian, the people. It's our workers that are paying the cost here, and there is a cost. They're losing physicians. Some of them are going to lose the people, and they have to go back. They have a higher deductible. I don't know. What's your, do you have any feelings on that? Because you just left that pool of people.
I did just leave that pool of people, and actually, they were a little upset when we switched from Blue Cross to United Healthcare because a lot of their doctors weren't covered at the time. But I'm pretty sure that they'll be thrilled to go back to Blue Cross because it was a better plan. They enjoyed it. They liked where the blood work was done. None of us liked LabCorp, no offense. But we all came back with blue arms. But I think they're going to like going back to Blue Cross. And as far as raising the deductible, I don't know. Are you raising the amount on the card that you give the employees?
Joe?
No. It will stay the same. Okay. Well, that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. But I think that should be in the discussion in front of us in the future and in the effect on the people. Because it's not just about money. We're talking people here.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to hear that if you were, I'm assuming that if you were in that pool still, that you would be going, yay!
Yes, I would.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. And so I can make a decision and feel, hey, you know, Linda thinks it's doable. I respect that. But I'm really concerned when we keep switching. If I was that person in the pool, I've been so fortunate because of being in the military, and I mean, my doctor stayed the same. I can't imagine having to go sign up again with another doctor and tell my story one more time to somebody new.
Well, the hardest problem they had was the dental when we changed to Humana, because none of their dentists were covered under Humana. So.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. I feel better. And now you can relax. I'm not going to ask you to come back up.
All right. Any other questions, council? All right, roll call, Ms. Weems.
Councilmember Hill?
Is there a motion?
Yes.
Yes. Councilmember Dodd made it, and then
Was there a
Vice Mayor
second?
Coy
And-
seconded.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry.
So Councilmember Hill said yes. Councilmember Kitchen
Yes.
Mayor McPartlin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Coy?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right. Brings us up to Madam Attorney, any matters for us? No? Mr. Griffin?
Yes, sir. I just have one thing. Actually, it's some good news. At Monday's Veterans Affairs Committee meeting, the VFW donated $1,000 to our police department. So thank you very much, VFW. That's all I have.
Excellent. Excellent. Ms. Williams?
The city attorney is a grandpa.
Excuse me?
The city attorney is a grandpa. His granddaughter was born Sunday.
Really?
Excellent. All right. Anything else, Ms. Williams? Ms. Coy?
Nothing.
Mr. Dunn?
Nothing.
Mr. Hill?
Nothing further.
Ms. Kinchin?
Nothing tonight.
All right, I have nothing. Being no further business, we're in adjournment. Good night.